Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the My Love of Golf podcast. It's Roscoe here, your host, and thank you as always for tuning in wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I really do appreciate you giving up your time to listen to the podcast. Today's interview is with a young man by the name of Eric Sedransk. If you don't know Eric by name, well, you'll probably know him by his Instagram handle. It's Member for a Day. Eric started Member for a Day essentially this year to do and provide once-in-a-lifetime golf experiences for a charitable cause. Yes, that's right. Eric has amassed a wonderful body of golf courses and people who provide Member for a Day experiences. It's a wonderful concept. I think it's a fantastic way of using golf and the popularity of golf and the generosity of people to bring all of that together to raise money for a variety of causes that Eric supports. Now, at the moment, Eric is just on the back of releasing his latest auction series, Coaches versus Cancer. And if you go to Eric's website, you'll see all of the details on Coaches versus Cancer. Essentially, Eric has assembled the who's who of coaches from the US, basketball teams, college basketball teams, along with some other celebrities and pro golfers to take and host the winning bidders, essentially for auction items, to play at money can't buy experienced golf courses. We're talking likes of Baltusrol, Shadow Creek with Pat Perez, etc., etc. It's absolutely phenomenal, the work that Eric is doing, bringing together people and matching them with other people who are prepared to pay for this experience, all in the name, and in this case, for cancer research, beating cancer. So that's just a wonderful way of using golf for a great and wonderful cause. And I think once you listen to the interview, you'll very much realize that Eric is definitely a man on a mission, and he's got a very clear vision of what he wants to achieve and what he can achieve, not only in America, but I think hopefully, maybe globally, by using this concept of Member for a Day and putting that work to good cause and effect, raising money for charities. It's a great story. I love the opportunity to sit down and talk to Eric. We've been chatting for a while, and just a very, very pleasant and pleasurable young man to spend 40 or so minutes talking to. I hope you enjoy the interview with Eric. It's a great cause. Check him out. Give him a follow. One day, you never know. We might have Member for a Day auctions down here, money can't buy experiences. We talk about that idea as an idea. You never know. So thanks for listening. Jump over to iTunes, leave us a review, share the podcast, tell a friend. And this is a really important one. Tell a friend about the work that Eric's doing. That'd mean the world to him, and it'd really, really bring a smile to my face as well. So thanks for listening. Enjoy the My Love of Golf podcast, and we'll see you next time. Eric Sedransk from Member for a Day. Welcome to the My Love of Golf podcast. How are you, Eric? Thanks for joining us all the way over there in Hilton Head. How are you?
Ross, thanks for having me. I am just living the dream every single day.
Well, I can see you because we're obviously using this wonderful technology of Zoom to connect, and I can see you. I've seen you on Instagram and online many times doing the wonderful work that you do with Member for a Day. It's the first time for us to chat, and we've been talking about it for a while, so it's great to be able to, in a pretty iconic day for us here in Melbourne, as we were chatting off air, that world gets back to some sort of normality. It looks like it's very normal over there for you, sitting in your T-shirt over there in Hilton Head. How is life on the other side of the world before we get into talking?
I feel bad saying this. I mean, South Carolina, the golf courses didn't close for a single day, so we've been really fortunate. Obviously, the COVID numbers are going up, going down, going back up. But in terms of golf, it's, they never close. And it's been, we're breaking records every single day in terms of number of rounds. So it's all good here on Hilton Head.
You do appreciate what golf means to you when you are starved without it for an extended period of time. And that's one thing that I think everyone in Melbourne has learnt. And, it's that appreciation for golf that I think has driven you towards doing something and using golf as a vehicle to do something really well. And that's what I'm pretty keen to learn about and share that journey and that story, because, the concept that you're about to tell us is a really powerful one. And, to be congratulated for, putting yourself to do that work for a great cause and causes. And I think the scale of it and the potential of it has got great opportunities, more so for you, but also for other people around the world, or for you around the world. So let's get into what Member for a Day is. Tell us, where that started for you.
Yeah. So, I mean, originally it was just a way for me to document some of my golf travels, I've been fortunate enough to play a lot of great golf courses, and I thought it was sort of my duty to share some of those experiences with people that might not be as fortunate to play some of these courses. And so that was really the start. And then frankly, I just wanted to meet other crazy golfers like yourself so that, when I'm in Australia, I could give you a call and we could play golf. That was really why I started originally. So that was about 3 years ago. And then, you fast forward to this past year, and I got laid off going into COVID. And, it was realistic that going into a pandemic, I wasn't going to get another job. So instead of just wasting my time networking and endlessly just applying to jobs, I was looking for something more meaningful and creative to spend my time. Couple that with the fact that I had left New York City. I had driven down to Hilton Head, where I still am today. And, the golf courses never closed. The beach is closed, but we were still going to the beach. I only say that because it basically just felt like I was on vacation. All the while I'm looking, I'm getting messages from my friends who were in their shoebox apartments, haven't seen the light of day in 2 weeks. And so I say that because I just started feeling really guilty. And, this kind of led me down a path of trying to figure out something to do. And, as I mentioned before, I had this Instagram account with, at the time, I think I had about 2,000, maybe 2,500 followers of rabid golfers. And, through my travels, I had met a lot of head professionals and members of some of the most exclusive golf courses in the world. And so I just said, you know what, I'm going to reach out to the people that I know and just say, hey, would you be willing to donate a round of golf that I'm going to auction off with the proceeds going to COVID relief, specifically to feed hospital frontline workers in New York City? And my attitude was, worst comes to worst, they just say no, and so be it. And, it's not really a big deal. And so I reached out. Actually, I remember the first person I reached out to, his name is Scott Chisholm. He's the head pro at Rolling Green outside of Philadelphia. It's just a wonderful William Flynn design, actually one of the best routing golf courses that I've ever played in my life. And I shot him a message on Instagram, and he just wrote back, yep, we're in. And I was like, okay, well, that was easier than I thought it would be. And so that kind of sent me down this path. And I spent about 2+ weeks reaching out to my network, trying to get as many great rounds of golf as possible donated. And after about 2 weeks, I had 20 of the best golf courses in the world signed up and committed to donating a round to be auctioned off for COVID relief. And so this was back in May. And so I'm pretty sure I'm getting these dates right. On May 14th, we went live. I had 20 golf courses, and I just pushed it out on social media. I didn't pay for any marketing or anything. This was all just organic social. And, I just had a modest goal, maybe raise $10,000 or $15,000 would be great. And the thing just took off. I remember a few very specific numbers. I remember within the first evening, or I should say first 24 hours, we had raised $12,000, which was basically my goal for the whole week. So that was a good start. But then the larger thing was that I just started receiving messages from people all around the world. I actually did receive a bunch of messages from people in Australia. A lot of people just saying, thank you. My significant other, my mother, my brother, my husband is a frontline worker. Thank you so much for this initiative. Those were the ones, I wish I had printed them out and made a collage of it, because those are the ones that really touched me. But even more so, I was getting messages from people that were members of some of the best clubs in the world. And they said, hey, well, we really want to support what you're doing. Can we donate a round at our amazing golf course? And we're talking about just incredible golf courses. I mean, ones that 5-10 years ago, I was just dreaming about playing, and now people are just donating these rounds to my auction. So the ball really just started rolling, and, the amount of money that we raised just became astonishing. And I remember that going into the last night, we had raised $65,000, which is a lot of money. but I had this feeling that the last night would be big, right? There's like an auction, everybody's waiting on the sidelines. And it was. And so we raised over $36,000 in the last 3 hours. So in total, I raised over $101,000 in 7 days for COVID relief. So
that is sensational, and congratulations. And I've seen that on your website, and it's and I watched that journey. As I reached out and hopefully was one of those people that said well done, and I watched it go and watched that get to $100,000 in a very short period of time, and it was amazing watching it, and it just made people like me think, wow, that there's the potential in golf to do some really good stuff. And
that's right. Yeah, and Ross, I mean, I can't stress it enough, right? The COVID auction was nothing more than just a way for me to give back. And I wasn't looking to make any money off of it. I wasn't looking to start a business. It was simply just something for me to do and to give back to those people who are out there on the front lines fighting for our safety while we're, inside hitting an Amazon button and having groceries delivered. And it just didn't sit right with me. And so, it was a staggering figure, and it's interesting to sort of see, what's obviously come about since then. But I can't stress this enough. I mean, the first auction I did was literally just a way to give back and just a little side project.
So the mechanics of the auction, just for those that are interested. So was it literally, you were buying rounds at all of these great courses that had put the prizes up, and you were paying for that privilege to buy a number of rounds, or was it individual rounds? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was just individual rounds, and they were either foursomes at the club or a lot of cases threesomes with a member.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like an eBay style auction where obviously the highest price wins. And then afterwards you get connected with the host member and figure out a mutual date that works for the two parties. And you get to play one of the greatest golf courses in the world, all the while supporting charity. It
is a fairly easy, when you think about it, like the way you've explained it. If you're a member at one of these courses and you have, any sort of philanthropic bone in your body, it's a pretty simple thing to be able to invite 3 people that share a vision like you do to come down and play your golf course and pay for it. I'm hoping that they paid for it. And, I know you will know Caddy Magazine, a great, wonderful Australian publication, and Will Watt is a colleague and a friend of mine, and we did nowhere near a similar thing, but when we had these bushfires here in Melbourne, Will wanted to use his voice and his reach to do something for the bushfire relief, and he reached out to me and said, do you think that you would take someone onto Peninsula Kingswood for a round, because it's a top 5 course in Australia. It's recently been rejuvenated. You can see a picture in the background there.
I was going to say, it looks great.
It is a wonderful 36 holes of golf. And I said, one round, let's make it real. Let's do 2 rounds. You and I'll take 2 people out. And people really, really gravitated towards that. And then the guys at Barnbougle put a round for 4 up. And, once again, people were happy to jump on that. And that was around that sort of same time, as similar time that you were doing yours. And it just made me think that, there's a lot of power in this. And, it was great for me. It was a great feeling, but this is not for me to big myself up. Absolutely not. But it was just a great and easy thing to do. 2 rounds of golf at my golf course is nothing. And, I know that the person that bought it can't wait until we can get back out there and do it. That's the next part of the journey. And, he's excited, and I'm excited to have someone down there that wants to experience a new golf course for the first time and hear the hype. So, you've capitalized on that whole concept and just turned it in, 10x it to the max, which is great.
Yeah. So it's interesting. There's a couple of things to unpack with that. The first is that, hopefully the person that bought the round with you, is a good, interesting, creative person. And a lot of times what I've seen already is making those connections is those people then become friends or they become business partners and clients with each other. And I can't tell you the amount of connections that I've already made, or I should say helped made. And so I know that there's a big kind of community aspect here. which I'm really looking forward to exploring. The other thing is, I love hearing, stories of, I'd like to think that hopefully I've inspired some people to do a similar thing that I've done, right? Because if I can show that the game of golf can lead to more charitable pursuits, fantastic. And so, I hopefully my lead and my example is inspiring some other people to do some more things and just give back in this great game of golf. I think the third thing that I really want to hone in on, and you mentioned it before, is it is so simple. And the most exciting part to me is if you think about, the dynamics of private golf courses. Obviously you can't get in unless you know a member or you are a member. And so because of that, the economics are rather interesting in the sense that the supply to play great private golf courses is very high. And the demand, is very high. And the supply is basically zero. And so because of those economics, you have these rounds that can go for a substantial amount of money. I mean, a threesome at Shinnecock went for $11,000 on my COVID auction. And you think about, that's an extreme example, but consistently rounds that are auctioned off on my platform are going in the thousands of dollars. And if you think about the normal guest fee at a private course in the United States is somewhere between $100 and $150. So let's say it's $450 tops for guest fees. You're talking about amplifying that 4, 5, 6x in terms of the ROI that's then given to a charity. So versus just someone handing over a check. Yeah. And so from a return on investment in a philanthropic way, the economics are just really good.
Well, I can see, and once a long time ago I bid and it wasn't successful, but once again I put together a consortium. I guess it was me and two mates, and we wanted to buy a round with Stuart Appleby. He was doing some work, for his charity and whatever it was. And it was a long time ago, and it was exactly that. We were happy to play well over the odds for this experience of playing with Stuart Appleby at, I can't remember the course, and it wasn't an issue. We didn't win. We were outbid, and good luck to the person that won, and I hope they had a great time. But if you're in business, and I'm sitting here in business, and what a great way to to host some people, to take some people along, and do something for charity. It's just double win-win, both sides. You've got a charitable donation, you've got a great experience for yourself and some friends, colleagues, business people. Use it to your advantage. It's just such a no-brainer.
That's right.
I'm interested to explore when you said influencing people and around the world to do something similar. Have you thought, and I'm sure you have, about the concept of you growing Member for a Day internationally, and it being part of your Member for a Day body? And I see that through the growth in Random Golf Club. I don't know if you've met Eric Anders Lang or
Yep.
But what he's done with Random Golf Club and setting up the chapters all around the world, and it's like the Pied Piper, and there's all these people just jumping on board to that concept, that they subscribe to the belief that that's the way that golf should and could and can roll. Yeah, is that the sort of vision?
Well, so I think there's obviously some really large differences, right? I mean, Random Golf Club, you're talking about physical communities, right? Yeah. Whereas Member for a Day is certainly a digital pursuit. And so I think something that's always attracted me to internet businesses, specifically platform and community-based businesses, is there are no borders, right? People can, if somebody from the UK or Australia or Japan wants to bid on a round at Shinnecock, they can do it just as well as someone from New York can. And so I actually don't even think about borders. And I've had auction items. I haven't had any in Australia yet. There was, but I think that'll come soon. We've had a couple in the UK. And so for me, it's just, I'm really more focused on two things. It's working with amazing nonprofits that do amazing work and getting great golf courses. And I think if I can continue to do that, the community is just going to keep growing. I mean, I see it, right? I see it every day, the amount of people who are following me on Instagram and or joining my email list, it just continues to grow. And I just know if I keep working with great nonprofits and offer great once in a lifetime golf experiences, the rest is kind of going to take care of itself.
So you don't attend the rounds of golf. You just set it up and then it happens. And yeah, so in my example that I guess I was sort of thinking about, you don't really need someone on the ground in Australia to be able to do that. You just need some people, maybe like me, that are willing to put up, a threesome at my golf course, and you put that up as an auction, and then we'll find someone at Royal Melbourne, and we'll find someone, et cetera, et cetera. You just need people like that on this side of the world. You'll do all the work. Maybe there's a charity on this side of the country or this side of the world that can benefit from it, but you've got the systems, the structure, and everything in place to make it happen.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And so we're definitely jumping ahead, and I want to, make sure to sort of tell that story, because I think it's everything that's happened since May has been just such a wild journey. And I have more stories than I think we have time for a podcast, but what happened after that first COVID auction, just a lot of things just didn't make sense. So, and I mean that in the best way possible. I got written up in Golf Magazine. I was in the New York Post. I mean, just some big time articles. And the only reason I bring that up is because of all that press, all these nonprofits started messaging me.
Yeah, right.
And saying, you did it for COVID. Can you do it for heart disease? Can you do it for cancer? Can you do it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I was like, sure. Yeah. I mean, I think so. I don't know. And I sort of had to figure out how to take what I did and create a model that's scalable, where I can essentially create a platform that's charity agnostic, work with any amazing nonprofit, and raise a ton of money through the game of golf. And since then, it's been crazy. I mean, I think at last count, I've done 6 auctions. To date, we've raised over $215,000 for a variety of nonprofits. And I'm booked through the new year. We're booked clear through the holidays into 2021.
So when you say you're booked, so you don't have any spaces to run any more auctions because you've got all of your courses, all of your golf, destinations locked in, and you're running as many auctions as you can to really do it.
Yeah. So it's a good question, because, I look at this as Ross as just one big test, right? The bottom line is my goal is just to raise as much money as possible through the game of golf for amazing nonprofits. And so right now, the way we're doing it is I'm not running multiple auctions at the same time. So I'm basically, there's like a 5 to 7 day window where I'm working with a nonprofit. We're doing their auction. We're promoting it exclusively. And when that ends, then we move on to the next one. And so because of that, obviously there's only 4 weeks in a month. So it sort of limits the amount that I can do right now. And that's okay, because, I'm not thinking of this as like, how large can we grow this and how fast can we do it? To me, it's more, I'm being methodical.
Yeah.
And everything is happening so organically. I'm being introduced to really interesting people in the nonprofit space, in the golf space, in the overlap of the two. They see my model as one that's sort of innovative. I think they see my vision of creating a community around the charitable side of golf. And, I haven't done any outbound at all. I'm not, and we just continue to grow. And so that's kind of the way I want it to be, because before we potentially get pretty large, and become a pretty large platform, I want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. And so, it's, I can't explain it any other way, except the last few months have just really been a dream come true. I mean, I'm speaking to professional golfers, agents. I'm, talking with the tournament organizers for PGA Tour events. I'm, just living my dream. I mean, I've wanted to work in golf for so long. I've always loved charitable endeavors. And so to combine the two with the technology aspect, which, fits my background, this is clearly my life's work. And it shows, because I'm really just doing nothing else with my time except for focusing on growing this.
That's great. That's sensational. Do you think that you'll see the time when, we'll be watching the PGA Tour and on someone's bag, shirt, cap, or whatever, wherever, that you'll see member for a day?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've already had conversations with some Corn Ferry Tour guys about that. So that's coming. It's actually the only holdup is the logo process.
Right.
And making sure that we do it right. I've gone through a couple iterations and I'm still kind of waiting for the one that feels right. But oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, the platform remains to be seen how large it can get to and sort of in what capacity it grows to. But, I think if you're talking about from the player's perspective, the way I look at this is I'm going to be able to create a platform where we can amplify and display the goodwill of players. Right. I mean, I've already, a couple months ago, perfect example, I interviewed Johnny Damon, former Major League Baseball player who's a huge golfer. We talked about his golf game. We talked about all his charitable endeavors. And I really think that model of just interviewing former athletes, current athletes, golfers, celebrities, athletes in general, just to talk about, to humanize them a little bit and to hear about all the amazing stuff that they're doing is great, right? I mean, like the model's pretty simple. Let's chat golf and you can tell us some of the really great philanthropic stuff you're doing. So I think a lot of the agencies and the players as well are seeing about the vision of where I'm going with this as a way to sort of display and amplify all the good stuff that they're doing through the game of golf.
And what's the feedback been like from some of the actual auction winners and participants? What have they been able to do and how have they benefited and what has that feedback been like?
Yeah, I remember this one guy messaged me on Instagram a couple months ago and said something like he brought his father to a course that they had, he hadn't played since he was a child and he was away for years and he just thanked me for setting it up, which is, he shouldn't thank me. He should be thanking his host, which I'm sure he did as well. But yeah, I think, Ross, for me, there's a part of it that, private golf is just that. It's private, right? Like we talked about before, and not a lot of people can play these courses. And so by giving people the opportunity to play these courses with a huge philanthropic avenue is especially important to me just because growing up, I didn't belong to a country club. And when I started to get into golf, I just remember driving by. I grew up in Westchester, actually pretty close to Wingfoot. And I just remember driving by those gates and just being like, man, like I would love to play there. Like, how do I play there? Like, it just felt like a different world. And so, giving people those once in a lifetime opportunities, all the while raising for money for charities is just something that's so important to me. I know that feeling of playing a golf course that I've played golf courses that I actually had dreams of. As golfers like you and I are, it's a different feeling. It is the definition of surreal. And I like to think that I'm sort of, at least for right now, a small part in sort of allowing people to have that experience.
Well, if you say small part, I'm going to say small but growing rapidly part of a great golf landscape. And that surreal feeling, I've experienced that. I've been lucky, very, very, very lucky and blessed to be able to, experience some wonderful golf courses in Australia and around the world, all, at the part of the generosity of other people who are happy to, just share around a golf with me, especially in Scotland, places like Muirfield and Renaissance Club and with guys that I ostensibly didn't know, but they were, generous enough to want to take me on there. And, there's plenty of people like that out there. And I'm sure in Australia down here, there's going to be, hopefully someone listens to this and, when the time's right and, that Royal Melbourne West Course auction, I think would be fairly desirable down here or, there's probably a handful of others, definitely, we're going to be able to find the people that want to help. And it's not going to be an issue down here. So, I look forward to the day that, we can talk about and maybe this podcast or I or whoever can introduce you to some people that want to, help facilitate that down here in Australia because, we're a pretty good bunch down here in Australia. We're pretty charitable. Yeah.
So I lived in Brisbane for 6 months.
Oh, there you go.
I studied abroad at UQ. So I know it all too well.
You're bloody Aussie, mate, up there in Queensland. So this accent's not unfamiliar to you. So Brisbane, did you do any golf up there when you were in Brizzy?
Because I was studying abroad and I was just a cheap college student, I did a little bit, but not much.
Yeah.
I remember there was one Greg Norman design that was kind of new when I was living there, that I played, which was actually really nice. I can't remember the name for the life of me right now, but this is going to sound so ridiculously American, but the thing that just blew me away, not surprisingly, was seeing kangaroos on the golf course. And that's just, as an American, that's the most epic thing. It's a lot better than a deer.
Well, if you are listening to this, and hopefully, this can reach some of your fellow countrymen over there in America, with the courses in Melbourne being closed, there are a handful around, more so on the outskirts, but some of my friends and colleagues work at these courses, and they've shown me some pictures from the last week. So there's been no play, obviously, just some greenkeepers. And the proliferation of kangaroos. We've got a doke course down here, which is personally one of my favourites. It's a public course. You can go and play there, and it costs you about $60, 60 Australian dollars. And it's a Tom Doak, and it's one of his, even he says it's one of his best pieces of land and best pieces of work.
What's the name of that?
It's called St Andrews Beach.
Right, that's what I thought. St Andrews, yeah, I've seen it on his Instagram before.
Yeah, so he loves that place, and we all love it. But the pictures down there of kangaroos, there's hundreds of kangaroos.
They're taking over.
They're just lying there in the grass, eating the grass and having fun, and they don't know what COVID is. They just think, where's all the golfers gone? But anyway, it's a wonderful experience for those that do want to see a kangaroo. Australia, when you can travel back down here, is a great place to come and do golf and see kangaroos. And within Melbourne, within an hour, there's probably several courses that you can see kangaroos. Just on a side point, there's another course called Anglesey, and I once had a great experience at North Berwick. I was playing golf with an Australian. I just got randomly paired with another Australian. He worked for the customs. He was on holidays touring around. All of a sudden, the starter at North Berwick comes belting down the third hole in his cart. He says, I've got another Australian here to join the Australian party. Anyway, his name was Steve Ballack, and he was the head greenkeeper. This is so random. At the superintendent at Anglesey. And Anglesey probably is the most recognised course out of Melbourne, or not too far away, for having kangaroos. So much so that they have turned that into a tourist business for buses of tourists to go and visit the golf course only to see kangaroos. Not to see golf, just to see kangaroos.
On the sideline taking photos.
So they've got a side hustle dealing in kangaroo tourism at Anglesey Golf Course. There you go. We digress on kangaroos. I'm glad you like the kangas down here. Bloody big things. Mate, I'm sure there's dozens of stories. What are the next key points that you're going to hit in Member for a Day, the next project level? What's on the immediate horizon that you want to tell people about?
Yeah, for sure. So the next month or two, we're sort of taking it to the next level, in terms of the scale, the offerings, the nonprofits we're working with, just everything. We're going to get really big name celebrities involved, athletes, just a staggering list of incredible golf courses that continues to blow me away. And so, yeah, I mean, the bottom line is, if you're looking for a holiday gift to give someone in your family who loves golf, there's going to be some incredible once in a lifetime experiences up for bid in the next couple months. So, what I always tell people is if you're interested in playing amazing golf courses and once in a lifetime experiences, all the while supporting charity, the best thing to do is follow me on Instagram at Member for a Day, or you can sign up for our email list at memberforaday.com. And yeah, the next 2 months, let's just say, Ross, I'm working really hard these days. Yeah. But I'm having a blast, and we're going to raise a lot of money for charity the rest of this year. Knock on wood, it's going to be a staggering amount of money.
And are you getting any time for your own personal golf?
It's funny. I did an interview a couple days ago, and a guy asked me that, and I said, I'm actually trying to play less golf these days. And he said, you might be the first person on earth who's ever said that. And I kind of laughed, and I said, yeah, that came off weird. But what I mean by that is, what I've noticed is it almost feels a bit selfish when I spend 4.5 hours on a golf course, because I know how much impact I can have in the world through charity and golf, through growing Member for a Day. And so, I'm still trying to figure out that balance. of course, if a good invite comes up, it's hard for me to say no. I have lost a little bit of the zest for just kind of recreational golf. Mm-hmm. And I think that's as to be expected. I mean, I'm literally talking golf all day long now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just got back from a Midwest golf trip that was just an amazing experience. For those who follow me on Instagram, they probably are tired of seeing all my photographs, but I played some good ones. I mean, I played Interlaken, White Bear Yacht Club. I was at Sand Valley. I played at Bobolink. I played at Kingsley Club, Erin Hills, Lawsonia Links, Blue Mound, Beverly. I mean, I played a lot of golf. I'm not going to pick up a golf club for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I live on a golf course. That's the funny part. Yeah, I'm golfed out. So I'll be just kind of like doing yoga and stretching and reading books for the next couple of weeks for free time.
That is some catalog of golf courses that you just reeled off there. that is, like, I think if someone woke up for a dream, they might have, and they said, I'm going to play golf in that part, that would be every course on the list. What was your favourite? Let's talk golf courses for a second, because you obviously love your golf and your golf course architecture, and so let's talk golf courses for a second.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it, Ross, was I'd always dreamt of being in sort of the northern Midwest during fall, because the leaves changing, the colors are just stunning. And I was there, I saw it all. I saw it from like the beginning to the peak, and then it was starting to slow down, and that's when I left. Let's see, what were my favorites? I think I thought Lawsonia Links, which is a public golf course that costs less than $100 at peak time, was fantastic.
It's
definitely a favorite.
Favorite of Andy Johnson from the Fried Egg. He loves that place, I'm pretty sure.
Andy Johnson loves it, and rightfully so. It's the two nines are completely different. The front nine is kind of slightly parkland, kind of through the trees, and the back nine is just links, like you can be anywhere. And the wind howls, and I loved it. The wind was like a Scotland, Ireland type day, the day I was there, which just beat me up, but I was just laughing and having a great time. So that one was really special. I'm trying to think, the combo that I did in Minneapolis of playing White Bear Yacht Club and Interlaken was so cool. On multiple notes. One, most people would say those are the two best courses in the state of Minnesota, but two, they're so different. And so White Bear Yacht Club, it's 6,400 yards from the tips. It's wacky and weird and hugely undulating, and I loved it. And I actually played one of the best rounds. Actually, I think the best round of the year there, and posted my lowest score. And then the next day is funny. Interlaken, which is ranked the number one course in the state of Minnesota. For some reason, I had tempered expectations, because a lot of times when I go to these big name places, I don't know, I just don't love big, brawny, difficult, back and forth sort of US Open style golf courses. And boy, was I totally wrong with Interlaken. I thought it was fun, interesting. Each hole was unique. They can't stretch it out quite far enough for a USGA event, but I mean, I know they've hosted women's opens events there and some big junior events there. It's awesome. I loved it. Had an amazing host. They just redid the clubhouse. They built a deck that overlooks the whole golf course. I mean, so those two, when I go on golf trips, I look for diversity, right? So I don't want to just play all modern courses, or all classic courses, or all Fazio designs, I want to see everything, right? And to go from White Bear Yacht Club to Interlaken and then to Sand Valley the next day was like such those 3 days just encompassed my trip, because Sand Valley looks like behind you to some degree. It has that kind of sandbelt Australia vibe, and so that was really special. It's hard for me to kind of really say what was the best, but like I said, the combo of White Bear Yacht Club and Interlaken was special.
You said a couple of things in that last few minutes there that appeal to me, and I know that when we do get to meet, and we will one day, whether it's on your side or this side, we will do that, and that'll be fun. That'll be great. You said there that getting beaten up in like a Scottish Irish links. So it's a massive tick for me. When you say you got beaten up by the wind and the rain, like it's being in Scotland, and I'm sure you've been there and done that, and you wear that as a badge of honour, that's fantastic for me, because that is one of the beauties about being a golfer. When you can respect being beaten up and you appreciate what you've been through, that's great. And
I have a great story about that if I can interject.
Yeah, you can, of course. It's your podcast.
So I was in Southwest Ireland. This was a couple years ago with my brother and my father, and we did kind of the classic courses, right? The ones that everyone does. And we just got so lucky. We all had rain suits. It never rained. It was sunny every day, 50, 60 degrees. It was great. We go to Ballybunion. We play in the morning, the old course, and it was like kind of raining, but not bad. It kind of got worse as time goes on. And by the time we were walking off 18, it had gotten pretty bad. And we're walking up to the clubhouse, and there's a starter there. And, he said, how was the round? And I said, great. And, I sort of motioned to the tee box of the caching course. I said, is the caching course open? And he looked at me like I was crazy, because at this point, Ross, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not one to exaggerate, we were going closer and closer to hurricane weather. I mean, it wasn't golf at that point. And he looked at me and just couldn't believe I even asked the question. He said, Sonny, if you want to play the caching course, it's on us. Go for it. And my dad said, no way, I'm out of here. Went straight into the clubhouse. I played by myself, and it was nuts. I mean, I'm just punching 3 irons, 50 yards down the fairway. It's like when they say umbrellas are irrelevant in Ireland. It went right in the bag. Yeah. And I came into the clubhouse 5 hours later. My dad's sitting on the couch in front of a fire. He'd met a couple members. He's having the best time. And I just looked like a wet rat that was in the sewer system for the past couple hours. But you know what? I look back on that, and it was just the wild, I felt like a kid jumping in puddles when you're 5 years old, and it sort of brings back that childhood fever. So, I had a blast.
I'm sure that feeling equates to a lot of the feeling that you get now when you look back at what you're doing and you pinch. But I can probably in my mind's eye, maybe if I tell it the wrong way, the feeling of being in Ballybunion, out on a course in the elements, you're only one out there, and it's another part of the world. It's pretty hard not to be spending some time reflecting on where you are and what you're doing and where you've been. It's a great experience to be out there. I've been very fortunate to be to that part of the world. My wife's family are from Ireland, and we spent a little bit of time there. I once had reciprocal membership at Lahinch, so my first Irish golf experience was flying down from Edinburgh to Shannon and just driving up to spend 3 or 4 days at Lahinch. And once again, spoiled, and you have to pinch yourself there. But being out there at Lahinch, and I just went for a walk out there by myself, which, as you know, in that part of the world, is totally cool to do. You're not frowned upon by going out and having a look and walking around, and at Lahinch checking the goats out, because they've got goats there, which are like the weathermen of Lahinch. And it's just an unbelievable experience, and just staying in that part of the world. I didn't play at Ballybunion. I drove sort of past it, stopped at Doonbeg, had a coffee, but that morning I'd played at Tralee. And just to... Which
is my favorite. I love Tralee.
You love Tralee. I
love Tralee.
It's hard not to love Tralee. I found it interesting, totally different in that front nine, back nine. The back nine was just...
The back nine is incredible. I thought the front nine was really good too. People kind of hate on the front nine. I thought the whole course was amazing.
That second... I can't remember the hole, the par 5, the one around the... I think it's a par 5. The first one that sort of takes you around the bay there. And then
I think it's the second hole. It's great.
The second hole. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's fantastic. And then the other one on the where the water's on the left-hand side over the other side.
Yeah, I think it's like 7 or 8. Yeah, it's another great hole.
Yeah, and the little castles, those old ancient lookout castles there, it's phenomenal. But just a story on that for your benefit. I'm not sure if my listeners have heard me tell this story, but but how golf is such a small world and connected world, and how really as golfers we really are all out there just doing the same thing, and we're not that far away from each other really. And this podcast can prove it. But I turn up to an 8 a.m. tee time. So I'd driven from Lahinch to Tralee for an 8 a.m. tee time. So you can imagine that's a fairly early start. Yeah. There's a lot of tourist coaches there, which is the norm over there. And I'm teed up to go by myself. And by this time I'd hung out with myself for quite a while, and I sort of wouldn't have minded some company. I said to the starter, is there anyone that I can join? Is there any threes here that I can join? He said, there's a a father and daughter from the US that are behind you. I'll ask them if it's okay to go with them. I said, that'd be great. And anyway, long story short, I spent some time in 1987 in Palm Springs. It turns out that the gent that I was playing with was the best friend of the family that I stayed with in Palm Springs in 1987. And they knew each other very well. I got dragged in to have lunch with them after the round and talk about what I did in 1987 when I stayed at the barber's house. And, like, what a great way to spend, 4 and a half hours on a golf course with a fella that, meant so much from your past. So it was really good. That's why Tralee's always going to be a fond memory of mine. But I actually posted a picture on my Instagram story last night from Tralee. You might can check it out. One of these black and white pictures that everyone's saying, post a black and white picture. The one that I posted last night was from Tralee. Now, talking of pictures, you take some wonderful pictures. All of those images on your Instagram yours? You take them? Yeah?
Yeah, they are, yeah. I think now it's interesting you say that, because now that I am doing auctions of courses all over the country and the world, I haven't been to every course. So there are some times where we spoke about him before, PJ Koenig and John Cavalier of Links Gem. They've both been really gracious to let me use some of their photos in order to raise money for charity. So that's been really helpful. Because I don't travel as much as those two. I travel a bunch, but they blow me away in terms of how many golf courses they play.
PJ, it's phenomenal just watching how much golf he plays. The even post his touring days, the amount of golf that he's playing at the moment, it's just phenomenal. And good luck to him. He's doing great stuff, and he's playing with some great people and bringing us some great information. Whether it's trying to get a hole in one or high kicking or whatever he's doing, it's always fun and funny to watch. Mate, I think if there's anything else that you want to cover, if there's any final message or anything like that, I think hopefully we've left everyone with a great insight into the great work that you're doing. And please go across and follow Eric at his Instagram account, sign up to his email list. One day the work will come down here, and I'm just saying this, I'm happy to help in whatever way I can, and I'm sure there will be other people as well. It's been great to chat some golf. You're obviously a very, 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 very passionate golfer. You like your architecture, so I know a lot of our listeners are going to appreciate that chat. And I've had a great time finally catching up with you. We've been talking about it for a while, and one thing led to another, but here we are. And it's been a lot of fun and very enlightening, and I'm very proud to have you on the podcast, because you have done and are doing and continue to do wonderful work.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, I really appreciate it. And obviously, thanks for having me on, and looking forward to teeing it up sometime, like you said, either side of the pond. Anytime
you want to come on, if there's something new that you want to tell people, you just don't have to, it's an open invitation. Just say, let's jump on, let's record something, push it out there. It's an open forum, the My Love of Golf podcast. So don't be shy in letting me know what's going on and what you want people to hear.
I appreciate that.
Eric, thank you very much for joining us. Check Eric out, and until next time on the My Love of Golf podcast, jump over, leave us a review, tell your friends. This is the way that this podcast gets in the ear and people get to hear the wonderful message of Eric and Member for a Day. Thanks, Eric.
That was awesome, Ross. Appreciate you, buddy.